Hello guys, welcome back to Recap Time. In today's video, we will be going through a 1997 movie titled Lolita. Do like and subscribe. The movie begins with Humbert, who has been offered a teaching work in a college. He is seen in a train going to stay with his uncle's friend named Mr. Mackes, hoping to stay there and finish off the book he is writing on, but on arrival he sees that the house has been burnt down. However, a friend of Mr. Mackes's wife named Charlotte, who is a widow, offers to take him in. When Humbert sees the rooms, he becomes uninterested due to its untidiness, but Charlotte, determined to have him as her man, decides to show him the exterior part of the house, hoping that it'll convince him to stay. While outside, Charlotte shows him her teenage daughter Lolita, who happens to be soaked by water, and Humbert looks at her lustfully and immediately changes his mind to stay. At night, while Humbert works on his book, he decides to play some music, but Lolita steps in and tells him that the music waked her, and Humbert quickly turns it off. She leaves and Humbert follows her and admires her while she eats. The next day, while Humbert works on his book, Lolita enters and sticks her gum on his book, then sits on his laps. But her mother calls out to Humbert while approaching his room, and Lolita quickly runs out and Humbert sticks her gum into his mouth to cover up. Later on, Humbert and Charlotte goes for a swim, and Charlotte tells Humbert how she wants to turn Lolita's room to a guest room. This confuses Humbert, and he asks her where Lolita will be sleeping, and she tells him that Lolita will be going for camping, and from there she'll go to a boarding school with strict discipline. When Humbert heard this, he becomes disappointed. The next day, Lolita prepares to leave for camp, and Humbert sadly watches her from his window. When she sees Humbert, she runs back into the house, jumps on his body, and kisses him. Later, Humbert enters Lolita's room. He misses her so much that he crashes on her wardrobe, perceiving her scent. But Louis comes in bearing a letter. She calls out to Humbert, but gets surprised seeing Humbert in Lolita's room. She gives Humbert the letter and leaves, wondering what he might be doing in Lolita's room. The letter contains Charlotte pouring out her heart to Humbert. She tells him to leave her house or get married to her and become a father to her daughter. This part intrigues Humbert because he'll be with Lolita. Humbert gives in and got married to Charlotte, but while married he intentionally avoids his husbandly duties by giving Charlotte sleepy pills. One day, Charlotte stumbles upon Humbert's diary, where he called her nasty names and also stated how he has been giving her sleeping pills. Humbert tries to make Charlotte believe that the diary is part of the book he's writing on. He goes to get some drink for her, but gets a call telling him that Charlotte was involved in an accident. He thinks it's ridiculous because Charlotte is just in the room, but when he searches for Charlotte, he didn't see her, and when he goes outside, he sees Charlotte's lifeless body. The next day, he goes to pick Lolita from the camp, but didn't tell her about her mother's death. Rather, he tells her that her mother is sick and hospitalized. While they drive to the hotel, Lolita climbs on Humbert and kisses him. At the hotel, while Humbert speaks with the receptionist, Lolita sees a dog and plays with it, and this leads her to meet the owner, whose name is Claire Quilty. When they lodged in, Lolita questions Humbert the reason why they'll be sharing a room with just one bed, but Humbert gives her silly reasons. Later, Humbert goes outside and he meets Claire, who offers to have lunch with him and Lolita, but Humbert declines and goes back inside. Later on, Lolita feels some pain due to the intimacy she had with Humbert. She tells Humbert to stop at a gas station, and later, when she's done, she requests for some money to call the hospital and check on her mom, but Humbert breaks the news to her and tells her that her mother is dead. That night, she weeps bitterly and finds solace on Humbert's body. Later, they travel to different places and had fun. At Lolita's school, Humbert gets to know that Lolita will be having a play with boys from other school, and he feels jealous about it and tells Lolita that she won't be acting, but Lolita's manipulative romance made him to give in. At Lolita's school, Miss Pratt tells Humbert that all Lolita is interested in is sexual matters, and she tells Humbert that someone might be exploiting her sexually, and this made Humbert tense and uncomfortable. Later, when Humbert finds out that Lolita has been storing money to run away from him, he develops trust issues. He gets a call from Lolita's school telling him that Lolita missed her class, and when he confronts Lolita, she tells him that she was playing with her friend. Humbert requests for the phone number of her friend, and when he calls her to confirm, she affirms to what Lolita said. Humbert apologizes to Lolita and tells her that he thought she has been telling people about their intimacy, but Lolita stares at him intently. This provokes him, and he becomes violent and yells at Lolita, but Lolita yells back, which makes Humbert to hit her, and she runs away crying. Humbert follows her and finds her in a store making a call. When Lolita sees him, she ends the call instantly. She meets Humbert, and they act like nothing happened. She tells Humbert to get her ice cream, and which after they leave together. Later, they begin their normal traveling, and Humbert notices that they've been followed. He tells Lolita to write down the plate number of the car as he calls it out for her. At a gas station, Humbert sees a man speaking with Lolita, and he rushes out to meet the man, but didn't catch up with him. He asks Lolita what the man was saying, and Lolita tells him that he was asking for a map. After that, they continue their journey. At a lonely road, Lolita sees the car following them, but keeps calm, and when Humbert sees it, instantly his tire explodes. He tries approaching the car, but the man drives away, and when he turns he sees that his car is moving. He rushes towards it and tells Lolita to pull the handbrake. When Lolita sees him, she feigns innocence and stops the car. They continue their journey, and Humbert remembers the plate number Lolita had written down. He checks it and notices that she has changed them. This annoys him, and he slaps, and Lolita runs out crying. They lodge in a hotel, and Humbert goes out to shave and gets bananas for Lolita. When he returns, he sees that Lolita's feet were soiled. He asks her if she went out, but Lolita denies going out. He rushes to the window and sees the car tracing them outside. He becomes furious and pushes her to the bed. He questions her who the man was, but Lolita acts flirtatious, which leads them to have intimacy. When he wakes up in the night, he begins to feel weird and sees things. Because of this, he instantly leaves the hotel for another. While speaking with the receptionist, Lolita tells him that she's ill, and he immediately takes her to the hospital. At the hospital, the doctor tells Humbert to go home and get some sleep and return the next day. The next day, he calls the hospital to check up on Lolita, but they tell him that Lolita's uncle took her. Knowing that Lolita doesn't have any relative, he rushes to the hospital to confirm, but they still tell him the Sama thing, and he becomes furious but calms down when he sees some cops outside. Several months gone, Humbert still searches for Lolita. He suspects that Lolita was kidnapped, and he goes to different hotels and goes through the register to check if he can find a clue. He notices same handwriting but different names, and he suspects it to be the perpetrator. 3 years later, Humbert receives a letter from Lolita telling him that she's married and pregnant. She tells him how things has been difficult for her and also requests for some money. With the address Lolita provided, he goes to her house and sees Lolita pregnant. Lolita invites him in and shows him her husband, and Humbert questions her about the person who abducted her, but Lolita isn't giving in. Humbert made to leave since Lolita isn't opening up, and immediately Lolita tells him that it was Claire, and instantly Humbert remembers. He questions her what transpired between her and Claire, and she tells him her ordeal of how Claire finds young girls attractive and films them whilst making love with adults. She tells him that when she gets to know about it, she told Claire that she isn't interested, and Claire threw her out of his house. After hearing all these, he gives Lolita more than the money she requested and begs her to come with him, but Lolita disagrees and tells him that she'd rather go back to Claire. Humbert leaves her house dejected and goes to Claire's house with the intention of killing him. When he meets Claire, he tells Claire that he came to avenge Lolita, but Claire plays dumb and tells him that he doesn't know Lolita. Humbert gets tired of Claire's behavior and releases a shot, and when Claire sees how serious Humbert is, he tries running away, but Humbert shoots him. Claire staggers to his bed and slumps, and Humbert shoots him again and he dies. While Humbert drives home, he drives recklessly, and this attracts the police, and they chased him, but Humbert didn't care less because he feels that he has lost everything in life. He stops in a field and feels its serenity, but he is arrested immediately. Later on, Humbert dies in the prison and Lolita dies during childbirth. The movie ends here. Do like and subscribe, share for more videos like this.